All right. Hello, everybody. I am with Miss Melina. How do you say your last name? Vivencio?
Vivenzio.
Vivenzio. Very pretty last name. So Miss Melina and I we've got a pretty good history. She was a coaching client of mine, and she's been subscribing to the OA list, and we've done a lot with Amazon together, and Melina's come a really long way. And so I asked her, we were talking the other day about online arbitrage and shoes and clothing, and she just dropped some awesome stuff with me. And it has to do a lot with the online arbitrage shoe list that we have. And I was like, man, you're being like super successful with this list. I really want to share that story with a lot of people. And so here we are. We're just going to jump into that story, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let me actually get back to this page. Everybody should be able to, let me actually share a different window in a momento. That should be, there we are. All you should see is that fancy screen there. Good. All right, Melina, I can't see the questions in the chat.
Okay.
Actually, let's see here.
No one has asked anything except for Nirav.
Right.
The link to
So I'll give him the FBA Insiders link really quick. Can you hear me okay? Is it skipping?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. All right, so tonight we're talking about how to source shoes and clothing with a restricted account, and this is online arbitrage edition. So the biggest issue with sourcing shoes and clothing is that if you can't sell Nike, Adidas, or Under Armour, or other similar big brands like that, you tend to think that I just can't do it at all. And Melina is here to say, yes, you can. That was the most unprofessional thing that I could do on a webinar to make
That's
a
pretty much
3-year-old.
exactly how I would say it.
That's how you'd say it? Good. Awesome. Well, let me introduce Melina here. So she's a mom of 2.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, 2 kids.
Now I lost you.
Uh-oh. Are we good? I think Friday night,
No.
a lot of traffic. So she's a mom of 2 kids, a wife, and she's been selling Amazon for about 2 years. Any other fun facts we need to know about Melina?
Well, I hate to correct you live on this thing, but my name's Milena.
Melina. I always want to go back to Melina. It's okay.
No, yeah, that's and then I am a photographer, so I basically run 2 businesses, which is in my mind like having 4 babies.
Yes, that is a lot, because businesses are like children.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Then I have 2 toddlers that are real toddlers. So
Yes, very good. All right, well, let's get started. So we're going to talk about the struggle. So Melina's struggle has been I'm going to really emphasize that now.
I know, right?
Because I've probably been saying it wrong the whole time we've known each other.
That's not true. That's why I was kind of laughing.
Why is he doing that? So the struggle for many of us is this, right? There's not enough time to source. I'm in the wrong mode here. Okay, there we are.
There we go.
So there's not enough time to source, not enough capital. Typically gated from selling the big brands. We just mentioned that. Normally not sure when to buy an item with lots of variations. That's often a struggle. Low ROI. And then for prepping and shipping, you could be either limited on time or space. Time is typically the big one. That's the big one for you said, right? Because you have the space, but not the time.
Yeah, it's definitely been time with us.
So what would you say that you kind of identify the most with in all of these? Like, have you experienced all of this, all these struggles?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why I subscribed to FBA Insiders, because I was like, I'm just not gonna sit on the computer for hours. It's not gonna happen.
And you
Um,
tried sourcing your own leads for a while too, right?
yeah, I did. Yeah, back when we first started working together, a couple years back, but that was part of my journey, was trying to figure out OA. And I tried like the tools, the tactical arbitrage, and um, not to down on any of those. They weren't really the right fit for me. So
Mhm.
um, and so yeah, the time thing was a huge hindrance, because I'm sure any mom of toddlers can relate to the fact that if you just don't have time during the day at all, and then by the time you're done with your day, you're just emotionally and mentally spent. So trying to do numbers is like, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then also keeping up with all the scans and just, I mean, having a
Yeah.
VAs and not to say that you can't do it. I mean, like with the list, I mean, we have a team of VAs that are they're doing the hard work for you, right? Like that's the whole point of the.
Yeah. But what's been nice about it is if I was to hire my own VA, I'd probably spend double what I'm spending with the list, first of all. And then on top of it, we've actually had a VA before. We didn't get as many leads per day as
Mhm.
as I'm getting right now from this list. So and then of course, you're always going to have leads no matter what that are not going to work. So if you don't have as many leads, it's like, those better be beautiful leads.
Yeah, right. And what a lot of people don't see with the list is that this list, like the daily list that goes out, it is a big list that we reduce way down. Well, we
Oh,
reduce the least, yeah. So it's bigger than what it
I'm
is
like,
that you see,
big.
right? So we send a lot of leads, which is great, but it's bigger, way bigger than that, and we have to really just refine it. We've got the VAs overseas doing all the sourcing, and then we have second level US reviewers doing it that are Amazon sellers that, it's all US based and they have a much higher understanding of what we're looking for.
Hmm.
And so again, we just keep cutting it down, cutting it down, and cutting it down to send you the best of the best of the best of leads. And that's, one hard part when you have your own VAs is that
Yeah,
you have to still comb through all of their
right.
clients.
Yeah, and I mean, when we had a VA, I want to say she was part-time, and she was great, but she
Sorry
was
about that.
like leads, and not one of them would work, and so
Yeah.
it was just
It takes time. Again, I think it just depends on the person and their scenario and how much time they have to train
and
and all that.
patience.
Yeah, the patience, 100%. Um, yeah, so again, gated from selling big brands, that's huge. That tends to just shut people down with this kind of stuff. And we'll find out later that um, Melina's gated from all the big brands, but is still able to make the shoe list work. And so, again, that was probably the main reason why I wanted to do this, just to show people, like, even though, like, don't just shut out the shoe and clothing category just because you can't sell those big brands. Because although yes, you can make money with Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour, you don't have to have them. And yeah, so we're gonna break all this stuff down. Oftentimes, when you have struggles, there's a mindset that you have to break through, right? So there's this thing called a self-limiting mindset, and that is where you're just saying, I'm always going to be this way. I'll never be successful. I'm never going to change. And just that loop that we get ourselves into, especially, like I'm in like four walls and a door, right? I'm isolated. I'm in a room, and it's easy to just get in that loop if you're not in a group or being held accountable or any of that. And there's certain things that can help us change. Um, but I love this quote from Jim Ron, and he says, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. And if you
Yeah.
don't, you'll find an excuse. And I feel like, Melina, you really just like punched this in the face, and you were just like, no more excuses. I'm going to figure this out. And you've been rewarded because of it, you know,
Yeah.
with those, with the profits on the back end. So what would you say to this? Because in your coaching journey and the Amazon journey that you've been on the past 2 years, that's kind of been helping you like break these? One, do you struggle with these types of things, with these self-limiting mindsets? And then two, what kind of helps you break through this kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say when you were even saying that, to me, I think one of my biggest takeaways from my journey has been that some struggles may not go away overnight, and so that self-limiting mindset thing is like a daily encounter with myself. And I mean, literally, even today, I had some time blocked out where I'm working tonight, and before I started, the first thing I did was sat down and took some deep breaths and like, all right, self-limiting mindsets, push those out of the way, and start, talking to my mind about what I can do and what I'm going to do today. And so yeah, the every day there's always going to be obstacles to push past and overcome, and we have the opportunity to choose. So I mean, I
Yeah.
think choosing to see it as an opportunity to choose what the next step is going to be and what my future is going to look like is the biggest thing.
Yeah. And when we push through those, like, I just love it. If you really want to do it, you'll find a way. Like,
Yeah.
and there's typically things that make us push through those things, and often it's a pain point. It's like, I'm, tired of dealing with this, or I don't like my scenario. I want to change it. But I think there's only so many times that we can just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. And all the neuroscience is coming out and talking about, accountability and how important it is to have 3 to 10 people around you. They know everything about you. They know your goals. And that really is recipe for success. And so if you really want to do something, one way to accomplish that is by joining a group, getting, some accountability and all that kind of stuff.
Support.
Yeah, support. I mean, coaching, all of it.
Encouragement, even being able to come out and say like, I'm having trouble, someone tell me I'm not gonna quit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so I'll just mention this now. If y'all join the list, you get into the Facebook group. And some of the people here tonight might actually even be subscribing to one of our lists or be in the Facebook group. Um, and it's really what you make it, like if you have questions, ask the questions, whether it be free groups, paid groups, or whatever. But specifically in our group, there, you can jump in, you can ask your questions about leads or tools or whatever it is.
Well, and I
Um,
love the responsiveness from you and Santosh in the group, because any questions I've had, or even whenever, I know there was one time where we came across a site that was like, and immediately, I just mentioned it and it was like gone the next day. Haven't seen it since. So
right. Yeah. No, and that feedback is so helpful for us. I mean, we do our best with all the moving parts that we have, but we're human. We're going to make some errors. And so whenever everybody catches that kind of stuff, and, don't keep it to yourself, right? Like, let the
yeah.
feedback come.
Well,
And
but I think that the having the customer service aspect of it, that's like, all right, we're gonna fix it, and I mean, everything is always in process and being built, but it's
Mhm.
or being perfected, I should say. But it's that aspect of service where it's like you guys couldn't wait to jump on it and just take care of and make sure that we're having the tools we need to succeed.
Awesome. Thank you. Yep. That is definitely our goal, is to, get those answers, get those questions answered as quickly as possible. And if it's not me or Santosh, there's other awesome sellers in there, like yourself and others. And it's like, if somebody else knows the answer, they'll jump in and
Yeah.
help out. All right. So some solutions for some of the struggles that we were just talking about. Okay. So this is where it kind of gets, it's, fun, where we start seeing different tactics turn into dollars. That's why we're here, right? Like it's
Yeah.
fun to talk. It's even a little bit more fun to make some money,
Good
too.
morning.
So the solutions, you get to source from home with a list. So if you've never used a list before, and kind of like Melina was talking about, if you're doing retail arbitrage or online arbitrage, regardless, it is really nice to have that ability to source from home with a list. And you can kind of go as, deep into the list as you want or not, right?
Well,
So
yeah,
go
and
ahead.
I'll just tell you a little bit about kind of how I use it. If I have an hour that day to source, I will take about an hour a day and source. Um, Recently, the past couple of weeks, I've literally had about 2 to 3 hours in the whole week. And it takes place on Friday. And so I will get the entire week and just copy and paste all of the, because they're Google spreadsheets. So I'm able to make little filters. And so I'll filter out the brands that I know I can't sell. And then what's left, I'll take and conglomerate into a huge list for the week. And then depending on how much time I have, I'll even go down even further and, you know, filter it by ROI, filter it by, or just looking at it myself, because I kind of know at this point, how much my costs are going to come out of it. And so I have to have a pretty high ROI. I have to usually filter out anything below 60% ROI.
Yeah, and that's a pretty high ROI too.
Yeah. But then I usually can get at least 2 or 3 wins by the end of the week. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but it's all also depending on how much time I put in.
So when you say a win, what does that mean for you?
For me, wins are buys that I know are
Okay.
profitable. I have goals for how much I want to spend each week. And if I can get to those goals, I consider that a win. If I buy it all, I consider it a win. I feel bad whenever I walk away without buying because I'm like, I didn't make money.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. But, and that's, I think, the beauty of the list is that you can be choosy and
Mm-hmm.
make it work for your parameters. And I would say yours are pretty conservative compared to most.
Yeah.
In that, there's limited capital, there's, and all that. Whenever you have limited capital, you want that ROI to be high. And the fact that you can meet those requirements, those parameters with a list, makes me really proud of the list.
Yeah, I've been really happy with it because I have done other lists before, and just not had as good of results. I did get results, but they just weren't as good. Like I have never seen a list with this high of ROI
That's
on a regular
awesome.
basis.
Yeah.
So,
And that speaks volumes for sure, just about the list. And what's interesting too, again, there is this, with shoes and clothing, it's kind of like how much can you muster in reading the data and figuring things out. And I say this with, with everything in Amazon, it's kind of like, if you can just keep pushing down the pipe to figure things out, there's a lot of people that are going to stop along the way. It's almost like a race, and people are just going to get tired and they're just going to drop off in the race. And the one who just keeps pushing is going to get the reward at the end. And that's really what you've done because, I hear, being in the position that I'm in with FBA insiders all the time, hey, can you help me get ungated in Nike and stuff, or help, can you, how do you source shoes and clothing, again, while we're here, without being ungated in those things? And so, being able to find brands that are ungated and profitable is one of the solutions, and that happens with the list. We have a big list at the end of brands that Melina can and can't sell. And your account is 2 years old, right? The Amazon seller account. But you haven't paid for like ungating services, have you?
no.
Yeah. So no, none of that, guys. No. What'd you say?
I didn't know that was a thing.
That is a thing. Paying lots of money for ungating, and you got to be careful with who you use and all that. We're not going to dig into that conversation right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a thing. So I mentioned the OA Facebook group just a moment ago. Prep centers. Let's talk about this for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
There's a prep center that Melina uses. We won't name drop it right now. But there's a prep center that she uses that you're super happy with, right? And yeah. And so talk about just a little bit, because there's a million prep centers out there and they're all used for different reasons. But talk a little bit about what that prep center has done for you in your business.
Well, before the call started, I was telling you that, my husband and I, Trace, we would try to just source and bring everything home to our house. And we have a room that we use as our Amazon office, but we would end up with piles and piles of just stuff, and end up, one night, and after like 2 weeks worth of, even though we were thinking, okay, we should have done it last week, but here we are, it's 2 weeks later. And so it just, we'd end up staying up so late, and, you know, with kids and jobs, my husband has a job to go to. It's just like, this is insanity. And it was becoming a bottleneck for us. It was slowing the business down, slowing down our flow of cash, because, you know, you have money all tied up in inventory that hasn't even gone into Amazon yet. And it's going to take another week to get on the listing, and then how long to sell. And so, they have, besides FBA insiders, that's one of the other only reasons I'm still in business.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, that's
Thank
it.
God for them.
Yeah, so it's a huge piece of the puzzle. You know, when you think about your time and what it's worth, like, your time is best spent whenever you are sourcing,
Mhm.
not prepping and packing boxes. And not that you shouldn't do that for a season to get your feet wet and figure it all out. But you know, and there's that, I think, when there's this fear factor with prep centers, right? There's this fear of, I'm going to send them my stuff, and then what's going to happen to it? Like, are they going to lose it? Are they going to, you know, whatever? Because then you also have the added cost of it too. But what were you
Yeah.
think? What were you going to say?
I didn't even think about them possibly losing stuff. But I have had, before I had this prep center, we tried a prep center when we very first got started, because we started, you know, like, I think a lot of people start where, you know, you're doing arbitrage and you're like, I'm excited, I'm going to stay up all night, every night, pack all the boxes and send everything and feed the beast. And then it was like, I have a baby. It wakes up 4 times a night.
Eh,
So it was quickly apparent to us that prepping and packing was not going to be something we could do every single night. So I started looking for prep centers, and I did have some experiences with a couple of prep centers where I called them and I was like, how does it work to get going with you guys? And, you know, I'm all green and excited. And they were like, they literally sounded like they didn't want to talk to me. Like, I was bothering them for
yeah.
they're asking for help. And I'm thinking, I want to send you money though.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So having this prep center has been really amazing, because they have been super incredibly responsive. They always let me know exactly what they've received and what they still haven't received. And it just, they're like my business partners. I mean,
They are.
that's
Absolutely. And
they're
that's how I
built
think you should look at any,
even. Um,
and that's how I think you should look at any provider, any service provider. They're a partner.
mhm.
And if they act like they don't want your business, then don't give it to them, right? Like that. And that's just life in general, right? Like, you go into a sandwich shop and like, what do you want? Well, nothing. Thank you. I'm going to leave. Like,
Sorry.
sorry, I wanted to give you some cash. My apologies. You know, so it's like, there are a lot of prep centers out there. And so you can pick and choose. SellerEssentials.com has a great resource, basically a compilation of all the prep centers in the US.
Mhm.
You can find some close to where you live. You can find some close to your suppliers, so on and so forth. There's a lot of reasons. You know, I would say definitely for OA, you probably want to find a state that is tax exempt. For sure. Is yours tax exempt?
Lower tax, no. But
No.
they are lower tax zone than I am, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So lower tax or tax exempt. But yeah, so prep centers for sure. And two, like, I wouldn't worry so much about the process if you've never, like, if you've never given user permissions to somebody in your account, or if you've never given anybody, just ask them to help you ship stuff. Don't let that be the fear stopper, because these prep centers, they're going to help guide you and walk you along the way and work through the process.
So Paul, there's a quick question here in the chat box from Ryan.
Okay.
Um, he said he doesn't use a prep center yet, but how does my prep center handle returns? So actually the returns, I just have them shipped back to me. If Amazon is shipping any returns, I just have them shipped back to my house. I could have them sent back to my prep center. And I have had situations before where I shipped out a product that ended up threatening me with an IP MSRP claim. So I did have those returned to the prep center, and then from there I sent the prep center my my label from the store that I needed to return to, and they just shipped it back for me. We did end up having a situation where one of the items got shipped back late, and so I had already finished that return. And so they just had this one extra item just sitting in their shop, and so I just said, hey, do you guys know a place where you can donate it to?
Yeah.
So they do have some places that they donate to. So Ryan, let me know if that doesn't clarify or answer your question. And
So the ones that get damaged on the way to the prep center.
oh, okay. I haven't had too much of those issues. They usually will reach out to me and let me know, like, hey, we've got a little bit of damage. How would you like us to handle that? And most cases, it's not been so bad that I can't just be like, well, tape it.
Yeah, right.
So,
But if it's, I've had issues like that before in the past, and basically what you'll do is that they might say, let's say you ordered a dozen pairs of shoes and one of the boxes is crushed and you can't send it in, like a shoe box is crushed. So you want to return that. So they would basically say, they would identify this is the unit that's damaged, let you know, and then you can initiate the return with the company and then send them back the label. It depends on the company, like if it's East Bay or if it's Foot Locker, like whoever it is, they all have a different return policy. And so you would just initiate that return shipping label and just send it over via email to them.
Yeah, I guess I have had to do that before, where I got two pairs of left or two right shoes or something like that and a pair of shoes. So had that situation come up.
Yeah, but it's nothing like, if you think about it, whatever the issue is, if it can all be solved through a computer, you can figure it out.
The win.
So good deal. Awesome. Yeah. So prep centers, huge part of scaling your OA business. Yeah, very, very important. So which variations sell the best? This is a huge piece of the puzzle. And if we have enough time here in the evening, we may even do a live. I might just go off the cuff and just do figure out which variations sell well on some listings. Two vital tools that both Milena and I use is AZ Insight and Keepa. If you are not using those two tools, you might be missing out on a lot of data. More than likely, if you're here, you've heard of Keepa before. AZ Insight is a relatively new tool, but and there's another one called Rev Seller, kind of comparable to it. I think AZ Insight is way more robust. I switched to AZ Insight not too long ago. So, but if you go to fbainsiders.co and you go to the resources, you'll see a link there, or you can just search it as well. So what all do you want to say about that, about which variations sell best? I mean, how long did it take you to get to a comfort level to where you're like, yeah, I know that this variation is going to sell on this shirt or shoe?
Well, it just has kind of been about data. Once I understood what data points I was needing to look at, I still kind of go with the data. I've heard of people doing more of like a gut thing, and they're like, oh yeah, but
That's exactly how they sound. Oh
yeah. Today I looked at a pair of shoes that I just thought, who in their right mind would wear those? But then I went and looked at the data and was like, apparently some people wear those. So, I ended up not going with them because they didn't meet my other parameters. But so yeah, I don't really trust my gut at this point. But I do like looking at some of the data points, and that, I mean, I would say that took me about an hour of a little webinar like this of someone showing what was the data points to look at.
So let's just talk about it really quick. What are the data points that you're looking at?
So yeah, obviously, seller rank, BSR.
Right.
I usually will jump into Jungle Scout and just double check what my gut says, because I've kind of gotten familiar enough with some of the BSRs to feel like, okay, that's a good rank, and that's but I still like to look at the numbers in Jungle Scout. And then I will look at the keepograph, and just because this is where it's like, it'll be good if we can do a quick little live demo, but you can look at, how many sellers have gotten on and off of it, and how much history the listing has. With AZ Insight, one of the big, huge key things I look at is how many reviews that the item has. And if it has no reviews, that's to me a little bit of like a, yeah, maybe not, hold on a
Yeah,
minute.
when there's no reviews, it's really hard to. You're more just seeing our sellers getting on and off that keepograph,
Right.
is
Yeah.
really so. Yeah, so Ryan said the bottom keepograph is huge, where you can see the number of sellers, and that's exactly right. One
Yeah.
thing about that bottom graph is you do not know if the number of sellers. Let's say there's 5 sellers, you don't know if they're FBA or merchant fulfilled.
That's
Um,
true.
so
But
the
you
only
can tell that they're at least selling through their inventory or not.
Right, right, exactly. So like, let's say, that sales rank is just climbing up, it's in the hundreds of thousands, and then it's in the millions. And there's sellers getting, on and off, but there's no drop in the rank. That just means that probably merchant fulfilled, throwing it out there to see if it'll sell, and then it might not. But there's a lot of analysis that we can get into,
For
and
sure.
um, and a lot of it, we could look at 100 child ASINs and come up probably with 100 different um, analysis, things of like, okay, well, in this one we would do this, and in this one we would do this because of this, and so it's a lot of jumping around, and a lot of it is just application, and just I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm just gonna learn to read Keepa, and that's really whenever a lot of my like local friends, I'm like, oh, they just think I just sell on Amazon. It's like, no, I'm really a data guy. Like I could really care less what I'm selling, if it's a bra, a shirt, a teacup,
Yeah.
whatever. It's all about, I'm really a professional Keepa reader, and
Right.
that's the lifeblood of the business, and AZ Insight and all the other
Easy
tools.
insight.
That's right.
Yeah, because the other thing, I just saw that you can pull up a graph now on AZ Insight that shows you a comparison of the prices in a visual form,
Hmm.
so that you can see like, okay, is this one ASIN the only one that's like $160 and everything else is 40, or is
Hmm.
it everything is around this rate? And that's really helpful for giving me
Yeah.
confidence as well.
Yeah, you don't want those outlier prices, right? If it says buy for 60 and sell for 250, it's like, but all the other pairs of shoes are selling for 80,
Right.
no bueno. Like,
Yeah.
it's just probably not going to happen. So, yeah, you want to keep away from those outliers. And we try to do our best with that on the OA list, and to really like not send those outliers. Sometimes you can get some of those sales if it's a really hot shoe, or whatever, but
Mhm.
not all the time. Oop. So keeping track of purchases, this is another huge thing. How many of you just love to just shop and then forget what you bought, and then it shows up at your door and you're like, I don't know what this is. And you scan it, you scan the UPC code, and there's no ASIN and all that. You have to keep track of your purchases. And Azon Tracker Pro is super helpful. Santosh, my business partner with the OA lists, he is the creator of Azon Tracker Pro. We've got some great educational videos inside of the OA group, talking about how to use ATP, and to track all of your goodies. And so it's going to be looking at your profit, your where's the source URL, um, the ASIN, all that. So whenever it does show up, whether that be at the prep center or at your house, you know what it is. So Melina, talk about that a little bit, with because these OA purchases that you're doing, they're going to trickle in to that prep center.
Mhm.
So how do they figure that out on their end?
So, we do have the option of sharing Google Sheets with them, but that's not, they basically they send me a Google Sheet of their best description of what they got, and then I match it to the titles from using Azon Tracker. But that thing, brother,
Love it.
It's, yeah, I wouldn't have, I tried for about, maybe a day or two to go without it. And then I did the trial and I was like, this, this thing has
Yeah.
already paid for itself. Cause I've just,
Yeah. And
I
it's
mean,
one of the most affordable tools out there. What is it,
well,
like
and it's
$10 a
just the
month?
time, like you, again, I, I have a severely constrained amount of time to do this business and I really want to do it. So having the option to be able to do this, you use this tool, I mean, like paid for the year. I haven't thought about it since and this
Yeah.
keeps making me money.
Yeah. And that too, there's this law called Parkinson's Law, and it basically states that whatever time you allot to a project, you will fill up that amount of time. If you
Mhm.
say it's going to take me a month to complete this, then you'll use a month worth of time. Remember when you were in school and you did the essay and they said, hey, it's week 1. At the end of the semester, your final essay is due. And you go, okay, great. And then what do most of us do? We wait until the
Right.
last
The day
day, pull an
before.
all-nighter, drink a bunch of Red Bull, which is we shouldn't be doing, and and knock it out. And so same thing, like we just launched FBA Insiders, and I set this really hard and fast deadline of like, in 10 days we're launching, and that meant okay, now the clock is on. Get your butt in gear. And I think it's the same thing. It's almost, I feel like I'm almost like I, you can be grateful for the limited capacity or the
Mhm.
limited time, because think about how much you punch out in an hour, what might take people 10 hours to do, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, you just have to be in the zone and you
Yeah.
have to make it out. So you can almost create that environment for yourself where you're like, I've got this neat little thing. It's called I described it real quick. It's Time Cube. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is going to take me 30 minutes. Go. And the
Ooh.
timer's on. And it's called a Time Cube. Got it off Amazon. I think it was like $6. And there's a
Those
little clock right there. I don't know if you can see it. Um, but it's like, okay, if I said this takes me 30 minutes, no Facebook, no text messages, phones off, away, whatever. And then when I'm done, it does like this really loud beep. And it's like, did I beat the clock or not? It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I guess I have a cell phone timer. I could do that
yeah, I like the visual aspect of this, the visual
for
management,
sure.
but anyways, they're fun. It's another also thing to clutter my desk, which we're not going to talk about. All right, let's keep moving forward here. So we're going to talk about Elena's numbers, and again, remember these are exclusively from the OA shoe and clothing list. We're going to be providing the link for the list here in a little bit. Um, so this isn't a bunch of retail arbitrage, right? This isn't a bunch
No.
of other suppliers.
Well,
So
no,
this
I only use the list.
right, only use the list. So spending about 4,500 a month and bringing in about 16 grand in gross sales a month at an average ROI of 92%. Again, these are rough estimates. I mean, you keep everything on
Thanks
track, right?
to thanks to Azon Tracker Pro,
There you
those are
go.
pretty well accurate numbers.
Boom. And the ROI includes the FBA and prep fees. So you want to include that in your numbers. You want to make sure that you're not just, accidentally lying to yourself about that.
Also, what
Um,
I love about AZ Insight because I can include those numbers.
right. So let's do some simple math here. So the list costs 150 a month, right?
Hmm.
And you're spending just off the list 4,500 at a 92% ROI. So that's 4,140 minus 150. So the list is making you 3,990 a month, and you can't sell a majority of what's even on the list, which
That's a
is
good
just bizarre. What'd you say?
that's a good ROI.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So, and then obviously again, out of that, some of the tools and whatever, but I mean, I just think like that is a phenomenal ROI on, let me see if I can do the math really quick. Never mind. I'm not even going to fuss with it. So that is just some awesome numbers. And again, I want to kind of like kudos to you for pushing through, because you're really seeing the results. And again, too, like how many hours did you say you're sourcing a week? with the list?
Uh, sometimes 5.
Five. That's crazy. So let's just say five. Let's round. Do you think you ever source 10? Is 10 a lot for you?
10 would be a lot for me.
It would be a lot for you. Let's just call it five then. So let's say you're sourcing 20 hours a week. 39.90 divided by
Oh, no,
20.
no, that's 5 hours a week, Paul.
Five. What did I say? 5 hours a
You
week
did 20. You
times
just,
four
oh,
is
for
20
20 hours.
hours a month.
Okay, sorry.
All right. So you got 20 hours a month that you're working, that you're sourcing. So 39.90, divide that by 20. That's 200 an hour. It's not bad.
1A.
That's not bad for a mama with two kids working from home. I mean, wow. We didn't do that math. We should have did that math before. But that's awesome.
Put more time
Um,
nursing. I need more money.
right. And so, and when you're growing your capital and all that, you're obviously not going to harvest all of that, but I mean, that's a pretty good rate of return. So think about that ROI of 200 an hour roughly. And is it worth your time to box stuff up? Do you get paid
No.
$200 an hour, right? So that's where the mindset really starts to shift a little bit, where you're like, oh my, this is the activity. So it's identifying those really income generating activities that only you can do, and
Hmm.
for you to do those. And then everything else, get the software, get the prep center, or whatever it is. And
Do whatever it takes.
yep, absolutely. So Melina and I were talking about, if she knew then what she knows now, what would those things be when it comes to sourcing shoes and clothing? So I love that. I think it was the first thing you said was like, don't panic.
Yeah.
Um, because your refunds kind of shoot through the roof a little bit, right? Whenever
Well,
you,
yeah, and I think it just because I didn't sell shoes and clothing before this list. Like I literally learned how to do it off of this list. Um, and so I was scared a little bit to jump into the list, but I also kind of was in a position of not really having any other choices at the moment. Um, and so uh, what was I going to say? So yeah, there was just this level of like, well, I better have some patience then, because it's just going to be a little
mhm,
bit of a ride. So yeah, not panicking. But
yeah.
oh, that's what I was going to say is that I think it's a revealing thing again about mindsets, because I saw a quote the other day that said, lack tells you something has to be done right now. And the mindset of abundance understands that, like, it's okay for things to take time, essentially.
Mm,
Um, I'm building something long term, and I'm not trying to build like a get rich quick overnight scheme, but I'm trying to this that's going to do well for a long term.
that's
So
good.
all that to say, don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic. But your refunds will be higher naturally, but most will be resold. So if you have your setting turned on, I think I have it in here. I'm just going to go back. Yeah. So have Amazon inspect and relist your items. So I got those out of order a little bit. Um, so if you can have Amazon, that's a setting in your Seller Central settings. So if you go into Seller Central, go to settings, I think it's Amazon or FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon settings. And there's a little block in there where you can check for Amazon to reinspect certain products and categories. So the argument with this is, well, I don't trust Amazon's employees to inspect an item, sell it, and then I'm going to get a sold. It's a used, sold as new claim. You don't want those. Too many of those can be bad for your account. Um, but I have had that setting on for a long time. I've sold a lot of articles of shoes and clothing, and I've never had an issue.
Yeah.
And my belief is also that you'll be able to track back, the item sold, returned, sold again, and then you can identify when that claim came through and say, hey, Amazon, you had re-inspected it and you messed it up. But again, I think that most people are more understanding.
I think Amazon is pretty strict too, like
Yeah.
about sure their stuff because it still falls on them if it goes wrong. So
Right. Well, and two, think about if you had them all sent back to you, do you want to be the one re-inspecting and sending them all back? No, you don't want to do that. Which leads us to the other point right above, places to liquidate your items. So some of these items can be expensive. You're talking 20, 30, 50, 60 bucks per unit, your cost, depending on what you're getting. Poshmark is somewhere that I actually learned that from Perry and Kim Coughlin. Um, that's where they were liquidating their stuff, and I had my prep guy. um I have a local guy that does all my prep, and I was like, hey man, look at a Poshmark, and he just went crazy with it. We had a lot of returns. Now I can sell the big brands, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, and so those were a few of the things that were moving on Poshmark. But I would say really any of these brands that we're going to list here in just a moment would be fine for Poshmark. And what I used to do is like pile all my junk up, all the returns, and then just have like a big garage sale at the end of each year. And I hated it. I just did not, it was miserable. Just like selling a pair of Nikes for like, $5. It's just like,
$1.
yeah. So anyways, this Poshmark thing has actually been phenomenal as far as getting some money back out of it. There's some time to dig into, like setting it up and all that. But like all things, they take a little time. But definitely look into Poshmark.
Have a VA do for you
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah, you can have a VA do it. One thing is the imaging, so you're going to need to grab pictures of the items. But if you get the picture of the item and hand the ASIN to your VA can handle it from there. That's really all
Nice.
you need.
Can't take
Um,
the picture off of Amazon.
well, so if something's wrong with the shoes, right? Crushed box, things
Gotcha.
like that.
Gotcha.
That's why these aren't going back to Amazon, is because they're no longer Amazon worthy. Um, and so that's why there's Poshmark. Um, and so you mentioned that you talked about patience earlier.
Mhm.
Um, having the patience to find the right deals. Know your parameters. Like she was saying, you don't go below 60% ROI.
60 based on what the list says. So, but yeah, so it depends because sometimes I will go below 60% or 40%, just depending on how confident I am in the price point. But I want to sell everything lowest for 30% ROI. So I try to give myself as much room for dropping as I can, because obviously drops are going to happen. So really, my goal is always about 100% ROI, but that's not always so obtainable. So yeah, I usually will cut the list down based on the parameters of the list itself. It'll say it's 60% because I know that that's going to at least give me about 40% or better. And so yeah, that's my parameters are pretty strict though, because I do have limited capital and time. So I just try to go for the biggest bang for my buck right away.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's exactly how I sort with list as well. Um, there's a question here. Is there any additional fees for that? Christina Leo was asking. I believe she was asking about the Amazon inspect and relist.
Yeah.
So no,
Okay.
I don't believe, I've never seen any fees attached to it. You get a fee on the refund on the, there's a,
Yeah, that's true.
so
But
that's probably where all that's being built into.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, if you had it shipped back to you, you would be paying. Now they're changing their rates. I think in the middle or end of February,
Mhm.
for the return, like the removal rates are going up or down depending on what the item is,
Yeah.
and how big they are. So good stuff. Anything else? If I knew then what I know now. I can't emphasize more of just learning the data. Like learn Keepa really, really, really well. If you think that crazy neon orange color of the shoe is just absolutely disgusting ugly, don't pass it up. Like more than likely it's got like a 300% ROI and you're going to make 100, something crazy. Like don't be judgy when you're looking at this stuff. Just look at the data.
For sure.
Um, and I love that tip what you just said, going for the stuff that has the most bang for your buck, like that. That's just,
Yeah, I knew I didn't have I mean, today I pretty much had to consolidate the list for the whole week and try to scan through the whole week in like a 3-hour block. And so I just was like, all right, usually I will alphabetize by store so that I'm shopping all in one store at a time. But this time I ordered them based on ROI and
mhm.
just started going downwards. And that way, the first things I was buying, I knew I was getting the highest ROI, hopefully
Yeah,
possible. So,
good stuff. Now, I'm curious because you went through the whole list like on Friday,
mhm.
right? And so how much of that was out of stock, when you were running into that?
Almost none. I think I only ran into one listing that was actually truly out of stock.
True, out of stock.
Most of the
Wow.
time I don't run into that issue. And actually that's one of the nice things about OA is because a lot of times if a deal is found on one day, it's not just a one day deal. It's usually available for a week or even two or more.
Hmm.
Um, I've been able to go back and find replenishable products for like 3 weeks before
Yeah,
uh, because the sale was just continuing. So yeah, I haven't had almost any issues with out of stock.
good stuff. That's awesome. All right, let's see here. All right, so here's where it gets fun. Brands that Milena can and cannot sell. Um, let's talk. Oh, I misspelled it. Doggone it. The one on the right is supposed to be can't. You should have seen me making this slide. My heavens.
Oh
If you
man.
haven't figured out, this is not, slideshows are not my jam. I should have had somebody else do this. But anyways, the one on the right are ones that she cannot sell. She cannot sell Crocs, Vans, Nike, Fila, Lego, Adidas, It Cosmetics, New Balance, Lucky Brand, Bath and Body Works, Fisher Price. Some of these other toy brands on here, guys, we used to have toy brands on the list. Now it's just shoes and clothing. But Converse, Play School, Reebok, Craftsman, Dooney and Burke. Those are some big brands. Um, was Under Armour on there?
No,
We
but
don't
I've
really,
never actually seen Under Armour on the list.
yeah, we don't really have a lot of that on the list. So Under Armour's hit and miss. Um,
This list I created
so
off of just like experience over time as I've been sourcing the list. So
yeah, right,
that
right.
would be just sending that to Paul real fast.
Yeah, and I think it's just super helpful to show like what Santosh is on here. Hey Santosh. He said we don't have a lot of Under Armour because Amazon is on a lot of the listings. That's very true. Um, so brands that she can sell, Lifestride, Asics, Easy Spirit, ACI. These are brands that like, who really even thinks of them? Like, I mean, they're not super, Asics is big.
I had
Um,
never even heard of Lifestride until the list.
yep. Um, so Disney, Capelli, Free People, Tommy Hilfiger. I'm surprised that you could sell Tommy Hilfiger because that's typically one that people often can't sell.
One click,
Pampered, what's that?
one click approval.
That's right. Pampered Chef, Puma. So, when it comes to getting ungated, we talk a lot about auto approval. And I'm more of the cord that if you really work on your seller metrics and you just keep selling a lot of stuff, then you will eventually get ungated in many, many things. Amazon's forever changing the rules on that. Sometimes they open the gates and they just let a bunch of people in. Sometimes they don't. It's all back and forth.
Yeah, I had
Um,
a minute where I could sell some KitchenAid stuff and then they regated me.
right, just a hot minute. So I just think this is so neat because these like the list that you can't sell is way bigger than the list that you can sell. And it would make sense that many Amazon sellers would look at that and go, I'm not even going to try with these other brands, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. There's just not enough meat on that bone. And what we're telling you tonight is there is, in fact, enough meat on the bone.
Free
Um,
People is a sweet brand.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like I, Free People, it's like, what is that brand? You know, like there's really not.
They're
Yeah.
a clothing brand.
They're a clothing brand.
Yeah, I just spent a couple $100 on some Free
Boom.
People dresses, like just dresses
That's
for
what I'm
my
talking about.
sorry. Anyway.
Awesome. Very cool. So well, Q&A time. I'm going to go ahead and unshare our screen here. So Melina, they were wondering what your prep center is. We can share it. Do you want to share your prep center?
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'm going to type your answer in here. Um, what is it? What's the name?
Proven Prep Midwest.
Proven Prep. Should definitely, y'all tell them that she sent you, okay? Because I don't know if they give any kickback, but
Tell them I sang their praises because I love them.
Proven Prep Midwest. Um, and
And then Beverly.
so, yeah, she said, where can I find a prep center close to me through Seller Central? Is that Seller Central or through
No, it's Seller Essentials.
Seller Essentials? Yeah. So that is selleressentials.com. If you go to selleressentials.com, you will, and I'll put that here in the chat as well. So let us know if you have any questions, guys. It is 9 o'clock. I'm going to say we're out of time to do a live. What do you think? Do you think we could do one really quick? It's going to be kind of tough.
Quick little easy insight just to show some of the things that I like.
Let me pull it up here really quick.
All
right. Y'all let us know if you have any questions. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go pull up a Free People, just random product.
I'm actually really excited.
Yeah.
Return. I just got a return order for a Free People dress that I had because I don't know. Apparently, it's not in sellable condition anymore. But I was like, I've had my eye on that dress for a minute.
That's so funny. Oh man. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. We got a couple more questions popping up. AZ Insight, are you able to find the ASIN for the out of stock variations? Yes, at times I've found, yeah. So yes, you can. I'm answering your question live, Ryan. You can find those out of stock ASINs, and that's gold to be able to find those. So AZ Insight's going to show you every single child ASIN in and out of stock. You can sort which ones you want. So Cindy asked, what list are you talking about that you're getting items from? So Cindy, we were talking about.
I had answered that one in
the. Did you post your links yet, Melina?
No, I didn't.
So Melina's got some links to post. We're mainly talking about shoes and clothing. So we also offer a regular, just like OA list of mixed, we call it our everyday list. So if you're interested in both, you could subscribe to both. But again, we're mainly here promoting the OA shoes and clothing list. All right, so another quick big question. My biggest issue in the past with OA is when the product comes, it doesn't really match the ASIN I thought. How does your list deal with that? Julie, that's a great question. When we are reviewing the list, so we've kind of created a whole flow. So we've got VAs overseas that are doing all of the research. And then we have a second level reviewer reviewing it here on the state side. And so all these different eyes, we also have a VA overseas reviewing. So we've got VA's research, VA review, US review, and then it gets sent. So we've got a lot of eyes on the products, and we do our absolute best to catch those mismatches. They don't happen often. We're human. There's going to be an error a time or two, but I mean, you can ask Melina, how often do you see those types of errors of like mismatches and things like that?
Maybe 10%.
Yeah. I feel like that might even be a high. I could be
Yeah,
defensive.
I would
I
say
feel
that's,
like that's a high. I hope
but
it's
you have
not
to
that
also
high.
consider the fact that I like eliminate so much of the list.
Right, right, right. Yeah. So, Julia, to answer your question though, we do our absolute best. At the end of the day, it is all up to the seller to, really dig into it. But we obviously want your trust, right? So, I mean, it doesn't happen often. I can say that.
I don't think
Um,
it happens often.
yeah, yeah. So,
I
good
wouldn't
question.
I wouldn't keep coming back if it was.
Good. So rank wise, are you avoiding any? So if the Keepa is so, would you buy it anyways? Or are you more
Um,
focused on the profit? Good question,
I
actually.
I will, yeah, I wouldn't say I could tell you which specific rank. I mean, I will look at like how many expected sales per month. I like to at least spend $100 at a store if I can, just because that usually is going to get me my free shipping or those kinds of things. So, um, if it's like, okay, I'm only going to buy one shoe and that's one pair of shoes and that's all I'm going to buy from that store and that's all it's worth. Like, it would really depend on the ROI.
Yeah,
Because if I'm going to make $300 on that one pair of shoes, then maybe.
right. Yeah, I would say just be strict on your parameters. I mean, there's some gray lines in there, but don't buy it just because you're trying to hit a quota, right? Like
Yeah.
make it make sense. So good question. Um, can you please share the link for the prep center? Is there a link, or can they just find it? If they just Google Midwest, what was it?
Proven Prep Midwest. I'm trying to see if I could find a website because they are more so just people, not so much computers.
I had to sneeze. Excuse me. All right, so we'll just give you the company Proven Prep Midwest.
Oh, you have a provenprepmidwest.com. I don't interact with their website almost ever. Like someone
Okay,
almost always either calls me or emails me, so it's like I just don't even use their website.
very good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to dig into the free people. Let's do this one here because there are some decent reviews. We got 31,000 rank in clothing. Is this like a risque dress? What did I just click on here?
No, I'm laughing because that's my dress.
This is your dress? Very good. All right. So this is AZ Insight here, guys. Great little tool, pops up right at the top. Um, I'm not logged into Seller Central right now, so that's why these top things are black, but they do crowdsource IP complaints. My take on that is I take it with a grain of salt because you never know who's reporting it and all that. I think it's helpful, but I think you can look at Keepa and figure out the IP complaint issue. It will also tell you if something is hazmat. So this little guy would be red if it is hazmat, or green, and then again it's attached to your Seller Central account.
Well, that black check mark there, it turns green if you're allowed to sell the product, and if you're not, it has a big X, but it also has a little
Button to click.
icon that you can click on to go and see if you can get the approval right from there instead of having to go through your Seller Central account to do that. So, I mean, it's not like to me, it's just like even every second that I can shave off of my time is so helpful. So I like that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, it will show that that it will, if you're ungated or not. There's some quick historical data. This is out of Keepa, so this is the 30-day sales rank, 90-day sales rank, and then the averages and prices. But we don't have a child async click right now, so we're not entirely sure. Actually, I guess there is one selected.
No, you
Yeah,
gotta,
it's somehow pulling out a price, but I'm not entirely sure
yeah.
because anyways, so we'll do extra small. So let's say we had the extra small black and we could buy it for $40 from somewhere. would be a 55% ROI. We could check out the variations because what we really want to find out is how well does this guy sell. Um,
Spoiler alert, it sells.
spoil, FYI, it sells. So we got black, extra small, and the review count and the review percentage is really what we're after. So what I like to do is I like to sort by review percentage. There's a lot of data here, and when I'm sharing on Zoom, my computer likes to go put. So it might take a hot minute to sort. Hold on one second here. Let's see if I can get it to. It's struggling. So at any rate, you would sort by review percentage, and you're looking for the ones that have that top review percentage. And so that means that whichever ones are getting the most reviews, obviously those are the ones that are moving the fastest. So the rank, you'll notice, is the same for all of them. So it's like, okay, well, which one sells the best? Again, the only way to really know that is by looking at the number of reviews and the review percentage. Right here, where these ones are in red, those are out of stock items. Okay, so what we can actually do is sort. There's a lot of really neat filters here where we can sort by the number of offers. And then there's a whole bunch of other filters that we can add as well. AZ Insight keeps getting more and more robust with its filter power and stuff like that. So I'm not going to dig into all of that, but we can filter
Yeah.
out, you can export it, all that jazz. Go ahead.
One of the other things that will, so in the same screen where you are right now, above where it says average price at the top there, up the right hand corner.
Yes, right here, all this stuff.
Yeah, that little graph thingy.
Yep.
If you click on that doohickey,
Doohickey.
I just discovered today ASIN versus price, and I actually really like that because it really helps me when there's data. It really helps me to be able to tell whether there's outliers or whether the product I'm looking at is an outlier, because it just shows you a bar graph, or you can choose what you want your graph to be, but shows you a bar graph with the price and then the ASIN number right underneath the bar that it's assigned to.
Yep.
And gives you really quick picture of like, okay, so the majority of these are around this price range, or like, no, this guy's standing alone at $160 while everybody else is at 40.
Yes. Yeah. Super helpful to know the price range. And you're talking, and that's what you're referring to about that ASIN versus price.
Yeah, that
Great.
helps me to that just adds a little bit more confidence to whether I'm going to buy an item or not.
Yeah, super helpful. So again, we got the calculator here. This little, if you don't like Amazon to be a seller, this is kind of nice and helpful. Amazon was a seller in the last 90 days. So let's go down to, keep us way down here. So this is really helpful with Keepa to kind of see, just again, what's going on. Like Amazon has been a seller, but they're like in and out super duper quick. So this on this particular ASIN would not be alarming to me at all. Now, if this was like mostly orange, personally, I would probably stay off of it. But it all depends on the seller. So you can see we had a little bit of a dip here, quite a dip. So it was selling just fine at 88. What's that?
And then it got cold.
And then it got cold, and then the price dropped.
Cover up.
And now that price is recovering a little bit. So just remember that green line, the sales rank, that is for all of these variations. So we've got about a dozen or so variations with all of these sizes as well. So we got a lot of out of stock. So what I would be doing here, so we got extra small. There is no extra large in stock right now, so I would be looking at that. And these other ones are just repeats, right? So I would be looking for those out of stock ones because it's awesome when you can be the only seller on that variation.
Yeah.
Even if it's not moving, like I would rather a slow moving variation where I'm the only seller than a fast moving variation where it's like price is tanking, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Um, there was a question about, Christina said, how do you tell from Keepa about potential IP complaints? So one of the ways that you can tell, Christina, is whenever you're on Keepa, it's going to naturally look like this. You click more historical data, and you're going to see these numbers of sellers down here at the bottom. So you see it says new offer count 11. If this just straight drops off, there's 11 people and then no mas, all the sellers are gone. That is very possible. Something went wrong there. There was a reason that Amazon pulled all the sellers off. It could be because of IP complaints. Another way to tell is if this is only one seller all the time and it's forever one seller. And then if you see another seller come on, they're just off right away. If it's just one seller, I tend to that's red flag for me, especially if it just looks like a private label product or really high-end brand, or whatever. Another way to look, so let's say you found an ASIN, there was only one seller across the board. You can also search in, what I would do is search in Amazon that brand. So if Free People, for some reason, there was one seller all the way across in that child ASIN I was looking at, you could look at the other child ASINs or just search Free People in the search bar. And there's an awesome little tool that I have called DS Amazon Quick View Extended. And that tells me, let me see if I can go back. DS Amazon Quick View will just give me a quick snapshot of all of the listings of the brand. And so if there's just one seller across the board all the way, then I'll just not, I'll just stay off of it completely. But if it's showing, man, my computer's definitely going slow for sure with this Zoom call. So you see, this is a little snapshot of DS Amazon Quick View. It says 3+ FBA sellers. If it said 1 and all the Free People said 1, then I would stay off of it. That's my little spiel there. So I wanted to mention really quick to Azon Tracker Pro. Melania, you have anything you want to throw into this or add while I'm chatting? Okay. So this is Azon Tracker Pro here. I'm not going to get into a ton of how exactly to use it. Santosh has phenomenal training videos on how to use Azon Tracker Pro.
But it's super helpful, super big time saver.
Super helpful. So what I can actually do is I can click the extension here and I can just actually fill in my COGS. Let's say my COGS was 40, expected profit was 21.91, bundle no. So depending on what it is, let's say it was a bundle, I can mention that it's a bundle, blah, blah, blah. I fill out all this information. I can put in some notes if I need to. And then I press this fancy button here. Is it this? Which one?
The lines.
The lines. It's late. The lines, and then it's going to push over to a Google Sheet. And so instead of copy pasting everything to Google Sheets, you just boop, one button and it's gone. So super duper helpful. So yeah, I would say, we could keep analyzing. We could play all kinds of games with analyzing these leads, but yeah, AZ Insight, great little tool. We've got some affiliate links on our website. Again, you can just go straight to their site. Either way, and let's see one other thing about the variation viewer. I think that was pretty much it that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, Ryan had asked if you can see the ASINs of out of stock, and you can. So if you can, they'll usually be in red, so you can just copy them.
Yep.
And I will, I'll just copy, because that's the nice thing too about the list is I don't just have to stick with only the product that I'm looking at. A lot of times I'll find additional profitable options after looking through reviews and looking through other prices. Oh, well, the size 7 could be good too. And oh, size 6 and size 9. And so all those ASINs are right there. And then sometimes I'll look at the graph, or well, no, I don't look at the graph for out of stock because I don't think you can see that with Keepa. But just based on the ASIN, like if there's enough history on the other products on this child ASINs, then I'll gamble on something out of stock and give it a good price. So
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it all depends on what you're going to be buying it for. You also want to make sure that there isn't duplicate sizes on the listings. So like right here,
sizes
you've
or
got,
colors.
yeah, XS women's 0 to 2 and then extra small. That's the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you want to make sure, like if we click on this, and that was just whenever the listing was created. So if we click on medium, whoa, we've
Somebody
got,
for a specific color variation.
yeah, it's just specific color variations, the way that they added it. So, um, all right. I'd say that's a wrap for the night.
Yeah.
Um, thank you so much for jumping on, guys. Her links are in there. I'm going to be posting this recording, sending out that's Melena's affiliate links. I wanted to give her those because she's just sharing some awesome truth bombs with us tonight, some golden nuggets, and just being super helpful. And so I hope that if you've been on the fence about shoes and clothing, this will give you the little added gumption to try it out and to try our list. We worked really hard on our list. And so anyways, thank y'all so much for joining. And yeah, Melena, anything else before we end?
Y'all have a good night.
Thank you so much for jumping on. Always fun to hang out with you, and you have a wonderful weekend.
Y'all too.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.